What is going on, everybody? My name is Dakota and welcome back to Cologne. Today we're going to be looking at and reviewing Parfums de Marly Cologne. Let's get into it. So in the comment section of one of my videos, I had a few people stirring up and we wound up talking about Parfums de Marly Cologne a little bit. And I thought, what a better way to go ahead and introduce this into the lineup of video reviews as to go ahead and just knock this one out. And to go ahead and get straight into the video, we are going to start with the atomizer. And the atomizer, being in Parfums de Marly fashion, is absolutely wonderful. It's pressurized, it's got a really good burst, it puts a lot of juice on your skin, really good. And so what I'm gonna do now is go ahead and put 1 or 2 shots there on the hand. And as it gets drying down a little bit, we're gonna talk about what we get on the opening of this. So for me, Parfums de Marly Cologne is a little bit of a toss-up. I really have to be in the mood to wear it. It's one that I don't love, but I don't hate either. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. But what I get on the opening of this is a heavy dose of that blood orange. And for me, I get a lot of pepper and different spices. I feel like this has a really hard hitting, like almost like a bitter cinnamon. The black pepper is kind of heavy on this one. To me, it's almost reminiscent of a little bit of like a spice bomb, with some of that sharp edginess that you get on the opening of this. But with a heavy dose of those spices, you also are immediately met with a warmth and just a little bit of like an earthy vibe to it. It's not anything that's going to be overbearing right off the top, but you kind of know it's there. It's definitely in the background when it first hits your skin. But yeah, the opening on this one to me is a little bit rough, if I'm being honest. Some of the spices are just a little bit too loud. Some of it is just a little bit harsh. But one of the things that I like about it is the way that blood orange comes across. It comes across really good. It doesn't really have like a citrusy feel to it, not on me anyway. To me, that spice and blood orange mix kind of makes it a little bit of like metallic almost. I don't know how it really did it, but it's just, for me, it's got a metallic vibe to it. It's like a sharp, warm metallic on the opening. So it's kind of an odd opening, but it's not the worst I've smelled. But speaking of those openings, we're going to go ahead and dive into the notes of this real quick. So the top notes on this are going to be spices. They're kind of unnamed. It's going to be blood orange and black pepper. And as I stated, you get a lot of those spicy orange. Really, that's all I kind of get all the way through the mid of this as well. The middle notes on this are going to be lavender and orange blossom. For me, I do not get any floral out of this whatsoever. And the base notes of this dries down to wood notes, moss, white sandalwood, tonka bean, and amber. But speaking of that dry down, what we're going to get into now is going to be the price, performance, and the availability of this. PDM Cologne is not one of the more well-known Parfum de Marlys. When it first came out, allegedly it was a hype beast. I really wasn't that big of a fan of it when it first came out. It took me about a year or two to actually get a bottle. Availability-wise, all of your major retailers might have this one. They may not have it on the shelf, but you could probably order it from them. Discounters is going to have this one as well. I recommend going that route, obviously. From the discounter route, you can pick this up for about that 170 range. This is the 125 mil. And as far as the performance on this goes, the performance on this is very good. As much as I'm not the fan of it, this is probably one of the more better performing PDMs out there, at least on my skin. The longevity I get off this is in that 8 to 9 hour range. The sillage I get off this is very big. It's that 2-3 foot. And the projection as well. The projection's in the 1 or 2 foot. A lot of the parfum concentrations that Parfums de Marly tends to make do set a little bit closer to the skin. This one is one of the more loud fragrances. This one is one that pushes pretty hard off your skin. The only issue with some of that performance is this one does smell just a little bit more synthetic than a lot of the other Parfums de Marlys. Honestly, to me, this one probably smells the most synthetic. It has almost like a rubbery kind of smell for me that kind of develops after that 2 to 3 hour range. You don't get it on the opening, but as it dries down, you kind of get it a little bit. It's not anything that's bad necessarily. Like, it doesn't smell bad. It's just kind of odd how it presents itself that far into the dry down. And speaking of that dry down, that's what we're fixing to touch up on next. So this one takes about 45 minutes to get all the way into the base of it to kind of settle in where it's pretty well going to be. And for me, when a lot of that blood orange dies off, when a lot of that spiciness starts to dial back a little bit, I'm left with like a mossy, earthy kind of spicy. It has a little bit of a touch of a greenness that develops after that hour mark. It's not your traditional kind of green scent that's going to be like a little bit refreshing or a little bit clean. This one is a little bit more of like a dirtier scent. This one's going to have a little bit more of that kind of raw earthiness to it. And if I'm being honest, for me, I prefer this fragrance at about that 3 or 4 hour mark. If I'm being 100% honest, I'm not really the biggest fan of this fragrance. I don't really like some of that bitter spiciness that I get off the front. I don't really like how some of the floral is so tame in it. And whenever it gets into that 3 or 4 hour mark, to me, that's when it gets honestly the best, is because it gets a little more, of those wood notes, a little bit of the floralness actually tries to come out a little bit. It gets a little bit sweet, but the biggest thing is a lot of that spiciness kind of dies off then, and you're left with a lot of what's truly in the base of this. And at that point, it's really not that bad. I just hate that it takes so long to get there, because at the 3 or 4 hour mark, you're still going to get performance off this. It's still going to be up and moving. It's still going to be a loud fragrance. But it's just, I don't like the opening in the mid to get to that point is my issue. I feel like this fragrance can be a little bit harsh. I feel like this fragrance can be a little bit sharp a lot of the time. And as much as I love Parfums de Marly as a house, they are my favorite niche brand. This one is just not one that ever really did it for me. This is not a full bottle, I will admit. I bought this as a partial. But the one piece of credit that I will give to them is, as a niche brand, as a lot of us fragrance lovers know, we want our niches to smell a little bit different. We want them to smell a little bit outlandish. We want them to smell unique. There's so many things that we tend to look for in a niche fragrance. And by a true definition of a niche, this fits the bill. There's not really anything that smells like this. There's not really anything that kind of has this profile that will have this kind of wrap up. So if you're looking for a true definition of a niche fragrance, this is going to be it. Because I'm one of the people that feel like a lot of niche fragrances, most of them aren't safe blind buys. Most of them are a little more bitter. They're a little harsh. You almost have to have that love of the scent for them to want to have them. That's where this one kind of falls into place. I'd always wanted to try this one. I got a sample of it. I thought it was decent enough to try to get a partial bottle because I knew I would never wear a full bottle of it out. But I'll also admit that this is one that I really have to be in the mood for to wear. If I had to give this fragrance a rating right now, I'm going to start doing 2 ratings on these videos. The overall rating that I feel like what they were going for, I would give this about an 8. I feel like if they went for something unique, different, strong. The presentation on this bottle, by the way, is absolutely beautiful. This is my favorite bottle from PDM. But if I had to give it my personal taste of what I look for in a fragrance, I'd give it about a 6. And that's only because this doesn't really have some of the stuff that I tend to look for in a fragrance. And that's why I'm going to start leaning into the 2 rating things. This is probably my least favorite Parfums de Marly, but I know a lot of people that genuinely love this one. So if I'm going to be 100% honest on this, my biggest issue with this fragrance is going to be what it reminds me of when it hits my skin. The first time I smelled this, I thought it smelled like Louisiana hot sauce. I cannot get that out of my head. I feel like I picked up like that kind of spicy red pepper, a little bit of that chili that goes into it. And for some reason, I've never been able to get that out of my head. And some of that could be like maybe my mind's playing tricks on me. As a lot of fragrance people know, the moment you kind of get something in your head and then you smell it, you can pick it up. And I'm hoping I don't ruin this fragrance for anybody. But for me, just the first time it hit my nose, I'm like, man, that smells like Louisiana hot sauce. And then I was just hungry and wanted something to eat. But it's not so bad that I would tell someone not to try it if you wanted to. These are obviously just my opinion. I know a lot of people are going to absolutely love this, but I would say test with caution. But I do think that is going to get us wrapped up on this one. I'll go into this model again. Again, the bottle design for this one, the matte red, the color with the silver, everything. This is by far my favorite bottle by them. I absolutely love the way they did this. That red to me, honestly, is probably one of the best looking bottles out of my whole collection as far as like the coloring, the silver, the way it's done up. And to me, PDM always has very quality bottles. They're a little inconsistent with their bottles, if we're being honest, but the quality of them are always very, very good. This one does have a snap cap like the rest of them. I don't recommend doing that because the snap is not very strong on this. But yeah, as a whole, still a rock solid presentation. But that is going to get this wrapped up. As I like to say in every video, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you everyone for subscribing, for sticking around, staying tuned, listening to me yap about how stuff smells. I truly appreciate it. We're getting close to 1,200 subs. We're going to be doing another giveaway at 1,200. It's looking like we're going to be doing the build your own sampler thing again. I posted in the last video. A lot of people kind of responded well to that once again. Thank you for everyone who comments and leaves feedback and everything on the channel. Special shout out to y'all. I truly appreciate y'all the most. But as always, we will see you next time.